Thank you, Mark. So that's the recording started as Mark had said. I'm going to present for about around half an hour or so. The recording will finish at that stage, and then we'll take Q&A primarily through the chat. But you're all very welcome. As Mark said, my name is Mary-Louise Cushnahan, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer with SureSkills. So you're very welcome on this webinar today, which is very much focusing on Microsoft Teams and the fantastic element of Microsoft Teams, which is really about collaboration, which enables effective teamwork. So the first thing I want to do is go through just the webinar topics. I have a couple of slides really just to introduce the concept of collaboration and teamwork, and how Teams fits in with that. And then at that stage, I'll go into Microsoft Teams and give you a demo on the following topics, actually, which are to create and join a team, how to communicate with your team, collaborating with your team using Microsoft Teams, and then we'll explore some apps that you can add to your team to enhance teamwork. So really just to actually come back to why we're using Microsoft Teams and what it helps with. Essentially, it allows you to effectively work together as a team within an organization. And teams, the definition of a team, they're groups of people brought together for work projects or common interest. And actually, if you think about Microsoft Teams and a reason why you would use, i.e., set up a team within Microsoft Teams is for these reasons, a group of people to work together for a common goal, whether it's an individual project, etc. Collaboration then, well, what's collaboration? So again, very like the reason that we create a team. Collaboration is working together on a shared project or goal. Features collaboration, and at this stage, I'm really focusing on collaboration within Microsoft Teams. The features of the collaboration within Microsoft Teams are the ability to share files, co-author files, in other words, work on files with others within the team, potentially at the same time, edit content simultaneously. So as I said, yes, you can work together, more than one of you on a document at the same time. And also part of that would be the communication side as well. So you can chat with your team members in the team. And the benefits of collaboration then is really allowing the team to work effectively together, which will ultimately improve productivity, save time, and you should be able to accomplish more. Really what it will do as well is break down silos and bring your team more cohesively together. It means that everybody is in the know, because they can see ongoing conversations within the team, to ensure that everyone has a voice within the team itself. So from the point of view of creating a team within Microsoft Teams, we'll go through a demo of the how-tos shortly. But just you will see when we create a team shortly within Microsoft Teams, there are two types of teams. There are private teams and public teams, okay? So why would you create a private team? One reason to create a private team would be where you have more sensitive information. So you want to limit the people that would be able to share that sensitive information. An org-wide team really would be then a team set up to communicate with everyone across your organization. But you will find, for example, a reason to create a team could be that you have a specific project, and you want that project team to work together, so communicate, share files, and collaborate on those files within that team. But also with that team, which probably for that specific project you'd make a private team, you would be ensuring that you have the right amount of protection. You can also create specific teams for communication with external partners as well. So you're keeping them separate from the sensitive information in your business. So it's just, different reasons of potentially why you would create a team, and the type of team that you can create, whether it's org-wide, whether it's private, etc. When you create a team within Microsoft Teams, what do you get? Well, you get more than you expect. The first thing actually is that Microsoft Teams will set up a Microsoft 365 group. Okay. And that group, ultimately, part of that group is relating to permissions. So those people, when you create the team and you add members to the team, will be added to that Microsoft 365 group. With the team that you set up, you also get a SharePoint Online site. Ultimately, when the team is created and you start to store files within that team, those files are actually held inside a document library inside a SharePoint Online site. The other thing you get with Microsoft Team when you set it up is a shared mailbox and calendar as well. So ultimately, that team will have its own email address, actually, and a shared calendar. You get a OneNote notebook. So OneNote, for those that don't know what OneNote is, essentially it's an electronic notebook. So it is a Microsoft Office application, OneNote. So that OneNote notebook that is added to the team is a shared notebook. An example where it could be used would be to take notes for meetings. And then the other thing as well, from the point of view of the setup of a team, you can then tie that team into other Microsoft Office 365 apps, like Planner. Planner is a lightweight planning tool from Microsoft, and also, for example, Power BI, which is our reporting and dashboard tool from Microsoft. So, you can see you get more than probably you expect when that team is created. Yes, you will immediately start to have conversations with your team members. In the Posts tab, you'll be able to store files within Microsoft Teams, but actually you get more than you expect. The Microsoft 365 group is set up, you get a shared email address, shared calendar. In the background, there's a SharePoint Online site, which is actually where your documents will be stored. You get a OneNote notebook, and then the big advantage then is to start to think about what other apps can be used to increase the productivity of the team. The team itself then is split into channels. And, what are channels? Well, essentially, when a team is created, all of the conversations, all of the documents actually happen inside channels. So channels are a single place for a team to share messages. Tools, those tools could be other apps like the Planner app that I mentioned. It could be the OneNote notebook, and then files, of course. How you organize your channels, they can be organized by group, they can be organized by project or particular features of the team as well, whatever is relevant to you. And to be honest, actually, a lot of people think of channels like folders. If you're using your team to share documents primarily and to collaborate on those documents, a lot of people view channels like folders to organize the documents within. Okay, so that may be the reason that you create channels. And the reason to create those channels could be by feature, as I said, by project, by group, etc. There are 3 types of channels available within Microsoft Teams. Those are standard, shared, or private. So when you create a team, by default, there will be one channel, which will be a standard channel, and it's called General. And you can then add other channels to your team. So a standard channel, they're open to all team members. So anything that is posted within that channel is searchable by others within the team. A shared channel, they're more for collaboration with people inside and outside your team, but also your organization as well. And then private channels, they're for discussions that shouldn't be open to all team members. So by default, a team owner or a team member can create a private channel and add members, but guests can't. So just a bit of background on that. But you're going to see, as I said, a demo of the how-tos here, just within the Teams environment itself. But that's, just setting the scene from the point of view of Teams, why we use Teams. Okay, so it's really to enhance teamwork, increase productivity within the team, but ultimately allowing all the team members to communicate effectively and collaborate on documents and other information. You've got the different types of teams you'll see through the demo, and then the different types of channels. Now, I have a couple of teams set up. We'll just look at those first, and then I'll create a team from scratch. Just one thing to say to you, just in terms of training courses that we offer in Microsoft Teams, and Kathy on the call will share our brochure with you in the chat. But we do have a one-day Microsoft Teams course, which is both the communication side of Microsoft Teams, which would be your chats and your meetings, but also the collaboration side, which is what we're going to touch on in the webinar. Managing projects in Microsoft Teams. So that focus would be on project management within Microsoft Teams. And then we have half-day courses on collaboration, communication, and meetings and events. So I'm going to come out of the presentation, guys, now and just take you into Teams, just to explore some of the teams that I've set up. And then I'll just demo, some of the how-tos of what the webinar topics were about, how to create a team, and the communication, the collaboration within the team, and then the other apps. I'll come out of the presentation and just take you into Teams. Okay, so we have Microsoft Teams, and you can see here, just by looking at Teams, I am a member of 3 teams, okay, within my organization. So SureSkills, project management team, and employee onboarding, okay. And actually, just to give you a little bit of background, these 2 teams, the project management team and employee onboarding, these are both private teams, and I set these up using a template. So I want to show you some of the templates, because actually the Teams templates can give you ideas. They can give you great ideas just in terms of, for example, the different types of channels, but also the apps that could effectively improve the productivity within the team as well. So I will explore some of those with you. The SureSkills is a public team. You can actually see, just even as I hover my mouse over the team name there, you can actually see I get a screen tip telling me, so that's a public team. So that's open to everybody within the organization. Teams, okay. So you can see that just on the screen tip there. So what I'll do is I'm just going to talk about these 2 teams that I have here, the 2 private teams, and it's actually just to give you a look at some examples of channels and also some of the apps that can effectively increase the productivity of your team. And then I'll go through just a little demo of how to create a team, how to create your channel, and then just the communication, collaboration, and the other apps that you could think about using within a team. So just starting with, as I said, I actually created this project management team from one of the Microsoft Teams templates, okay? And you can see there, it's created by default 4 channels. When you create a team from scratch, if you don't use a template, you will always be given the general channel, which is the standard channel. And again, just looking at the screen tip there, you can see it's telling me the type there. This channel is a standard channel, as are all of these actually. These are all standard channels from the point of view of the template. So the channel is where the communication happens and where the collaboration happens. So if I go into the general channel of this project management team there, so you can see there's a little bit of help coming up there from Microsoft Teams itself. But from the point of view of the Microsoft project management team template in Microsoft Teams, the general channel actually has quite a few tabs across the top here. So I'm just going to give you a flavor of these. And ultimately, these tabs are some of the apps that you could add to your team to enhance your productivity. So every channel by default will have a posts tab and a files tab. The posts tab is where the communication happens. Okay. So where the difference between posts and, for example, the chat ultimately would be, yes, one-to-one chat with your colleagues within the organization. It could even be a group chat with a number of colleagues within your organization. And you tend to find the chat is very much, particularly one-to-one chat, is very much back and forth, okay? And a continual conversation. Whereas it's slightly different. The focus within a team, the posts tab, is very much about conversations. And of course, it's conversations with your team members, okay? So if you have a purpose for your team, in this case, a particular project, and all of the project team members are added as members of this team, ultimately then you can focus the conversations of the team throughout the channels. And what it'll do ultimately, guys, is cut down on email, because it means that I've got a one-stop shop. If I want to find anything out about the project, whether it's up and coming key dates, whether it's just announcements about the project, etc., I will come to that one place, and that is the team. Within Microsoft Teams, I can look at the posts tab. You'll get a notification if there is a new post. You'll see actually the channel will turn bold. But the other thing as well is all the shared files are kept here as well. So it's not just about the conversations, it's also about the collaboration slide and the files and the other apps that you may be using to enhance the teamwork within Microsoft Teams. So, you can see the post. It's a little bit different from your chat. So from the point of view of posts, when you start a post, ultimately, you can see nearly it has the look and feel of an email. Okay. Now, just to let you know, by the way, I'm using the new Teams environment. Okay. So if your organization hasn't upgraded to the new Teams environment, this might look slightly different, but it's the same idea. You create a post, and then people can reply to that post. So in other words, that post will have a specific subject. Okay, so that's why it's more like an email as opposed to your chat that you would have one-to-one or maybe with a group of people. So the posts are focused for the purpose of the channel, but also on a particular subject as well. And as I said, then people can reply to that. So I'll just pop in a welcome message here. I don't want to spend too much time typing, but it's just to give you this idea of the conversation element of a team. So subject, and then when I post that, so it means then any of the team members, they'll see, of course, the subject of the post, then the message within the post, but they can reply to individual posts. So that's why it is different from chat, where it's very much chat is back and forth. Whereas, I can reply to that one, or I could be replying to that post as well. So that's your posts tab. So every channel will have a posts tab within a team. So then we have our files tab. The files tab ultimately is where your files are shared within the team, within that channel. And that's why I think, a lot of people do tend to refer to channels as folders, because ultimately, you're thinking about that team breaking down the work into whether it's topics, subject areas, groups, etc. And that's why channels are very much seen as folders. So I will go through a little bit of the how to use the files tabs shortly. So you can see any of these. If I go into any of these channels, guys, you're going to see posts tab, files tab. So that's posts within that channel, files within that channel. And again, posts and files and posts and files. So that every channel, regardless of whether it's a standard channel, whether it's a shared channel, whether it's a private channel, will have a post tab for the conversations and a files tab to share the files within. So then what you'll see, and this is where I want to just give you a taster of some of the apps that you could potentially think about using within your teams. So then you can see a variety of tabs in some of these channels. And those tabs, if we go beyond the posts and files, primarily will be the apps that you can add to your team. So the first one there, Notes, is the OneNote notebook. So if you remember back to the presentation, when a team is created, by default, it will create a OneNote notebook. And that OneNote notebook is a shared notebook, which means that within that notebook, all of the team members can add notes. So as I said, for example, what you could use that notebook for is to take the minutes of the meetings. Yeah. So every project meeting that you have, those minutes are held within the OneNote notebook. And the advantage of OneNote, I'll just go into it now. Ultimately, what you can do with a OneNote notebook is you can split that notebook into sections, and each section would have multiple pages. Okay, so you've got that idea of you take, for example, our paper file, and the paper file is split by dividers. This is the electronic equivalent of that. So you have your OneNote notebook, which can be split into sections, and then within each of those sections, multiple pages. So for example, I have, a page here. I'll just call this project meeting minutes. Okay. So I can add multiple pages, I can add other sections to this OneNote notebook. But the main thing really, and why people use OneNote, it's so flexible in terms of the type of notes that you can add to it. So it's not just about, typing notes in. I could insert images, I could insert links, I could insert screenshot, in theory, video and audio as well. And the other thing, which is the power of OneNote, and this is where you should consider it as a very useful app within a team, is that you can also tag your notes. So, for example, what I could do if this was minutes of a meeting, I can actually have a to-do list, that people tick off, so I could, I'll just click in here. As I said, I don't want to waste too much time typing, but, task 1, task 2. So people could then be ticking off the to-do list as those tasks are done. The other thing as well, you can mark notes as important. I'll just say important note. So essentially you can tag that note as important, etc. So you imagine, you've paper, you've a pen, you mark things as important, and you underline things. You're doing the similar actions within a OneNote notebook. So something to consider. And remember, you get that OneNote notebook by default when the team is created. Now, the other apps I'm going to just briefly mention to you guys, just to give you food for thought. These apps you do have to add, and I'll show you how to add an app to a team shortly. So remember this project management team, guys, I created this from a template. So by default, it created the channels for me. It also added these extra apps for me as well. But you can create a team from scratch. You can add whatever channels you want and add these apps. And I'll show you how to do that shortly. But we've got the issue tracker, something to think about. The issue tracker is a list. Okay, so it's an app that you can add to your team, which allows you to manage a list. It's, yes, I could have an Excel file that I store within the files tab within a channel. But this list, essentially, it's available straight from the tab within the team in this channel. And then you can start to add items to the list, edit items, delete items, etc. So that's a very useful list. So you can add lists to your team. Project tracker, that's again another list. So these are 2 list apps that have been added. Our site, that's actually another, that's a SharePoint site. So remember, by default, it creates a SharePoint site with your team. Power Automate, you can also automate some of your tasks within your team. Power Automate is an app within Microsoft 365, so that can be added into your team as well. So for example, where you could use it is with document approval. So for example, if somebody uploads a document, and that document needs to be signed off by 2 people, you can create what's called a Power Automate flow to automate that process, which would automatically send an email to the approvers, and then they can approve or reject the document and so on. So it's a great app as well to enhance teamwork. So that's just a couple of examples. So lists, your SharePoint site, workflow, just flicking through some of the other channels here. Project plans, this one here, just let me show you this. This is the planner app. I'm just setting it up. Just bear with me here, guys. So this is the lightweight planning app within Microsoft 365. And this is where you can organize tasks and you can organize them into what are called buckets. and you have different views of those tasks. You can set up a task name, who's assigned to the task, when it's due, etc. So lots of apps to explore, guys, to think about adding to your team to enhance teamwork. There's another template, employee onboarding, just to, again, show you a couple of examples of other apps. So again, post 5, there's my notebook. Get started, and that's the SharePoint site. There's a checklist, again, another list. Okay, so you can see how effective these potentially could be. Okay, and again, that's another SharePoint site there, training. So what I want to do is take you through the how-tos. I'm going to create a team just to go through the different team types. Then we'll create some channels again, just to go through those different channel types to reinforce that. And then I'll explore the posts, the files, and then the other apps that you can add. So to create a new team, I'm going to come up to the plus here, just to create a new team. And I have the option to create a channel within an existing team, which of course I'm in this employee onboarding team at the moment. Then I have the create team option, and then the ability to join a team. Okay, so if I have, I'll just show you this actually. So you can join a team with a code. Okay, so if somebody has given you a code, you can then join that team with that code. I'm going to create a team here. So I want to create a new team. So this is where you can see the team type. Okay, so by default, this team is going to be private. Now, if I click on that, there's the other 3 options. Okay, so you've got private, which ultimately then you're controlling who the team members are. So when I create the team, I will be the team owner, and then I can add team members to that team. Public, anyone in the organization can join that team. Org-wide, everyone in your organization is automatically joined. Okay, so org-wide, they'll actually automatically see that team in their teams list. Whereas public, they can join it. Okay, remember, even the term can be misleading. Public is actually still your org. Okay, so for this team, yes, I am going to choose private. You also have this option here again. Just I want to explore the templates with you because it will give you ideas. I think templates are great just to give you ideas of what you could use teams for, giving you ideas of the channels in those teams, i.e. how to organize the work within the team, and also some of the apps. Because as I said, those project management team and employee onboarding team came from templates. So that more create team options actually takes you into the template list. So you can see there's quite a few templates to, give you ideas about, if it was a team about a project that you were creating for a project, that will give you some ideas of the channels and the apps that you could add. Manage an event, there's the onboard employees, incident response, etc. Okay, so something to think about. You could create a team from one of the templates from Microsoft Teams. So I'll just go back to where I started. So just to explore that, what I'm going to do is create a team here. This is going to be a private team. So I'll just project team. So I'll just set up the team. The purpose of this team is to manage a particular project. So I'll click create. And then at this stage, I can start to add members to the team. Okay. So the members can be an individual name, a distribution list, or a security group, i.e., for example, a Microsoft 365 group. You can also add people outside of your organization. You do that by adding their full email address. Okay, so I'm just going to add a couple of people here. I'm using a training account, by the way, guys. So I'll just add a couple of members to my team just to get started. And what actually happens is that by default, when you add them here, you can see immediately they're added as members. But this is where the role can be changed. So they can be changed as an owner. By default, I'm the owner of the team, as the person creating the team. But yes, I could, in theory, make somebody else an owner as well for contingency. So I'm going to make student 01 an owner. So that's for contingency if I was off on leave. And then student 2, student 3 are members. You can skip this step. because you may want to create the team, get the channel set up before you start to add the members. So I'm going to click add, which will create the new team. And as you can see by default, we have our team and one channel by default, which is the general channel. And you will see those three tabs of posts, files, and notes. Posts for your conversations, file for your collaboration, your shared files, and then notes is your OneNote notebook. Now, what you do need to do, the first time you click on notes, it'll actually get that tab ready. You can see it here. So it does have to initially create that OneNote notebook. But once it does, then the whole team then can contribute to that shared notebook. So just in terms of managing the team itself, just from the point of view of the team, I'm just going to go into the more options here. And if I come into manage a team, so I remember I'm the team owner here. But what you can see here is the list of owners and then the lists of members and guests. Guest would be, remember, if I added somebody external to the organization, and I add them by adding a full email address. So this is where you can add more team members if you wish. You can change the roles and you can remove as well, okay? Pending requests, so that's if somebody has asked to join your team, and that's where you'd see those requests. This would be the channel, so we only have the one channel at the moment, which is the general channel, and I'm going to show you how to add a channel shortly. Settings then, always worth thinking about looking at settings because you may want to amend the permissions of what the members can and can't do and what the guests can and can't do. The at mentions, you can mention somebody in a team, you can mention a channel, and you can mention the team itself. So I'll show you that, the at mention. Analytics is very good, guys. You know, is this team being used? You know, are people going in and really working with this team? You know, who are the active users? So what's the engagement in the team? So it's a great way, maybe, you know, once you get the team set up, to just check in from time to time, you know, are people actually using the team effectively? And then apps, these are the apps that potentially I could add to the team. So for example, there's the lists that I showed you, which was created with the project management template. There's the planner, which is the lightweight planning. There's a Power BI, reports and dashboards, forms for surveys, yeah, and so on. So you can see that's the initial list, but you can get more, okay? So that's where you manage the team itself. So from the point of view of the team, you can then, of course, start to add channels. You can add more channels to the team. So thinking about, you know, why would you need another channel for a team? It could be for a particular group within the team. It could be you need to have a number of the team members working on more sensitive information. So that would be a private channel, etc. So I add a channel. I'm just going to add a channel just for demonstration purposes. So these are, I'm just thinking, project documentation. Okay, so for all the project documentation. And then you've got the three types there. So standard, everybody on the team has access, so just what I showed you in the presentation. Shared tends to be more for people outside of this team within your organization and people outside of your organization. And then private is a subset of the team members. Okay, so I'll just make this another standard channel. You can automatically show that channel in everybody's channels list and then create, and that creates a new channel, which again has a posts and files tab. I'm going to create a private channel and a shared channel just so you can see what they look like visually. So my private channel, I'm going to just say this is financials about the project. So that's a private channel. Now you will be asked who the members are of that private channel. So I'm just going to add student 1 and student 2, not student 3. There we are. So you can see the little padlock, so that's a private channel, okay? And then the last, just to show you what this looks like, is a shared channel, okay? So I'll just steering committee. So this could be people outside of the project team and outside of the organization. So that's a shared channel. And you'll see, again, you'll see a different symbol there. I'm just going to skip that step of adding the members, but you can see the difference in the symbol there. Okay. So just in terms of the posts and files tab, post tab then, I could just start by adding on a post, just as before. Okay. Main thing I want to just mention to you is the app mentions, just and then that's sort of the communication side. So ultimately you have the ability to add a post, which everybody in that channel will see. But if you want to draw the attention of a post to an individual or to ask a question of an individual, then we can add mention. Okay. So that means that they will get a notification in their activity, but also the little app symbol will appear beside that channel for them as well. Okay. The other thing you can app mention, just to show you this, you can app mention a channel. So if I start to type in a channel name, so you can app mention the team or the channel, which is really useful. So it means then, again, those members of the team or those members of that channel will get a notification in their activity. So people think about just mentioning individuals, but it's so powerful to mention a channel or a team as well. You want to draw attention to that post. Okay, so that's that. So that's really all I want to just talk about briefly on the post tab. The files tab then, guys, just in terms of your collaboration. So your files tab, ultimately you can upload existing documents to your files tab, and then all your team members can work on those documents together. You can also create new documents. So I'm just going to upload a folder of documents here. So I'll just upload these documents. So I'm just dragging and dropping there from my file explorer. Okay. So I've uploaded existing documents, which is uploading a copy of those documents. That now means that those documents can be seen by all of the project team members. All of the project team members can edit those documents and potentially co-author, which means they can work on the documents together at the same time. I've also the ability to create new documents, and that's even within the Teams environment itself. So in theory, I could create a new Word document within Microsoft Teams itself, or I can create it within Word on my computer, and then of course launch then or save it into that team and channel as well. So you've the ability to upload existing, but also create new. There's my Word document there that I've just created online, which will be saved to that team. Okay, so that's that. The ability to collaborate is so effective, guys, within Microsoft Teams and within the channels. So in the documents here that you can see within the Files tab, more than one team member can work on a document together, which is what's called co-authoring. But also you have the ability to view versions of a document as well. So you can view the version history of a document. Ultimately, where these documents are stored, just to give you a little bit of background on this, is inside that SharePoint online site that's created when the team's created. So I'm just going to go into SharePoint just to briefly show you this. So I'll just close some of these pop-ups. But when I create that team, in the background, it creates a SharePoint online site, and that SharePoint online site will have a documents library. And the documents library is where you will see essentially the channels look like folders. So that's why a lot of people do refer to channels as folders, because ultimately then the documents are held within folders within that documents library in the SharePoint site. So that's another thing that you get when a team is created. You get the SharePoint online site, which is really where the documents are stored. you don't need to go into the SharePoint site, but it's important that you understand where that comes from. That's physically where your documents are stored within the Files tab. Now, if you want to add other apps then to your team to, as I said, really enhance the productivity of the team, we can then add a tab. So within any of those channels there, you can choose to add a tab. So I can then add from the list of apps here, just taking a little bit of time to load there. There's the calendar actually. So you can see there's a good list there. Okay. Or if you're familiar with the app that you want to add, you can search. So for example, I may want to add the planner app, which is this one, to my team, which allows me to manage tasks within a team. So I'll just save that. Okay, so this is where I can add tasks and manage those tasks by organizing them into buckets, etc. Another one that you saw within the examples, the project management team, for example, is a lists app. Really useful to manage a list. It could be a list of, for example, if this was a help desk team, this could be a list of the tickets, so I'll just create that. Now, the only thing about the list tab is when you add it, you then have to create the list. So essentially you need to tell Microsoft Teams what the columns are going to be within the list. But again, you've plenty of templates to choose from. So for example, this could be an issue tracker list. So I'm going to go for that template there. And with that, it gives me really the columns that I need to manage issues within the list. So lots of things to think about, guys, to improve then the team and add in those extra apps. So list, planner, you've got your OneNote notebook. So guys, hopefully that's given you a flavor of what you could potentially use Teams for, just that description of what Teams and channels are, the different types of channels, and then the other apps that you could think about adding. So I'm just going to stop. Well, no, I'll actually leave the share